You just gotta, hit your button and you're present. Yeah. You all fired up?
All right, we are waiting on Bob Anderson, Jim Gores, Dana Heller, Craig Fowler, Carol Moen, and Amanda Conan. If you need help, just let Lance know.
God waits for no one.
Close that out.
Something down here. Do you remember? Something you do down
Pastor,
here?
he's just trying to score points.
Just start again?
Yeah, try it again. I had to do mine a couple times.
Okay. There we
Works
go.
fine once you get it open.
Maybe. There we go. When it works, good.
Is Bill online? Bill, are you online?
Yes, I am, Louis.
Okay, good. And thanks for not coming in if you're sick.
You got it, buddy.
Okay, and how many we have? Yes, it doesn't tell me how many are present.
All right, we have 28 present with 1 absent, and that's Dana Heller.
Okay, public notification.
Wendy Coleman, my executive assistant, has complied with Wisconsin open meeting requirements. Meetings agendas have been posted on electronic meeting notice boards located on the first and second floor of the Government Center and on the first floor of the Justice Center. A hard copy of the meeting agenda is available in the county clerk's office, and she's verified the proper posting of this meeting. This is the Barron County Board of Supervisors scheduled for Monday, May 19th. This agenda was posted on May 14th at 10:10 a.m.
And Pastor Roger Proyas from Long Lake Bethany Lutheran will lead our invocation.
Actually, it's Long Lake Lutheran,
Oh,
not Bethany.
Not Bethany.
But thank you. And my name is Roger Preuss, if you didn't catch that, and I'm a constituent of Patty's. I live in Bear Lake Township. Just a quick note. I was talking yesterday after church. We were doing what Lutherans do best. We drink coffee and talk about the weather. And I happened to mention that I was going to be here tonight. And one of the guys said, "Oh, can you get them to do something about that boat landing?" And I said, now this group of public servants is much too important to deal with things like boat landings. Although I tend to agree with his attitude. Here it is. I believe that you are in the business of trying to bring chaos, bring order to the chaos in our culture. Yeah. Yeah.
thanks for changing your mind there.
Was that a Freudian slip? You're trying to bring order to chaos. Chaos is neither good nor bad, it just is, right? And so that's what I see you folk trying to do, is trying to bring order here in our county and help us all live better and more productive lives. Should we pray? Gracious God, we give you thanks for all things. You are the creator of all things, the co-creator, the continuer, the producer, the giver of all things. And we pray tonight that you'll give a sense of true devotion to these folks who are here, your public servants, people that are in place to serve the common good. And we pray that they will bring that order to our lives. We pray they be blessed and that they be safe. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. Pastor. Anyway, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, special matters, and I guess first up will be Deputy Darren Hodak. You know how to run that mic and stuff, don't you? Yes, you get direction from our clerk if you need it.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's a tough act to follow, but good evening. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time to talk to you about this. For you, those of you that don't know me, my name is Darren Hodak, and yes, I am married to Jessica Hodak, who is clearly my better half. If not, we can talk afterwards. I'm here to let you know that I'm applying for appointment to the position of sheriff. None of us, including myself, thought that Sheriff Fitzgerald would leave. Honestly, I thought I'd retire and he'd still be here in 10 years. But with his leaving, it's not a position that any of us take lightly. You guys, myself, anybody at the departments. A little backstory on myself. I've been at the Barron County Sheriff's Department for 17 years. I've been in law enforcement for almost 20. During my time with the Sheriff's Departments, I was hired back in 2008. I was a little bit younger, had a little more hair, and was a little smaller. After 6 years on patrol, I was promoted to a patrol sergeant with Barron County, and I served in that role until about 2023 when I was promoted to captain. I'm a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was deployed there in 2003 to 2004 with the U.S. Army as a combat engineer. My reason for seeking appointment to sheriff is to basically keep the Sheriff's Department running in the right direction, to carry on the relationships that Chris has started with all of you and all of the community and all of the other departments. I just want to keep the ship going right now. Keep it going straight, keep it going good, and don't make any major changes. I know that many of you voiced your support for me, and I do appreciate that. I will gladly get to know each and every one of you that I don't know already. My main goal for the Sheriff's Department is just to run it effectively and efficiently, and God willing, have every deputy, every dispatcher, and every jailer go home to their families at the end of the shift and keep the citizens, tourists, and everybody in Barron County safe. That's all I have. Thank you for your time. I'm going to go start a sports dynasty with my child now and a Little League dynasty. So, all right, thank you. I'll be in touch with you. If you have any questions, get a hold of me. Yeah, yes, sir. I've got letters from a few of you, voicing their recommendation to the governor, and I'll be, submitting those in the next couple of days. Just, if you get any calls from the governor, just remember my name and let them know it's not Jess, it's Darren. Okay. Nobody wants her as sheriff. Just, it's the bulk. Okay, one person might want her as sheriff, but no, is there any other questions?
Good luck on your position and good luck on the game.
I asked the pastor if he could get this a win because last week was a loss and it was rough. A lot of 10-year-old meltdowns. So it's about like working at the Sheriff's Department just with adults. But I just want to say thank you to Sheriff Fitzgerald. I mean, 17 years is a long time. He didn't hire me. Tom Ritchie did. But 17 years is a long time. And I mean, it's been tough. It's been challenging. But I think everybody's kind of sad to see him go. And we walk by his empty office and it's just not the same. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sheriff, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thanks for 17 years. I'm not sick. I'm not running for another office. There's lots of rumors out there, but I don't have cancer. My wife's not leaving me. There's not a scandal. It's just a kind of a perfect opportunity to leave. We have everything going on at the sheriff's office right now. We're fully staffed. There's no major incidents. The jail project is in good hands. I'm not worried about anything. So this ended up being a perfect time to go work for a perfect company. But first I want to thank you guys for allowing us to add members, increase safety, increase equipment, continue our partnerships, and we all work together to get the job done. So Darren Hodak has my full support, Chief Deputy Hagan's full support, many of yours full support. I believe the governor will hear that loudly. We plan on making it well known that Captain Hodak is the logical and best choice to fill the shoes of sheriff. I want to thank Jeff French. He has guided me in a lot of ways. Sorry. You've done good, Jeff. Appreciate it. Jody, you're all my crazy ideas, and she still lets me spend money. It's great. And I've had a few, and I appreciate that. Rachel has always helped us hire the best people. Our department heads have all worked together. We don't have silos here, and that's been the greatest part of it. And I went to work for a county or a company that's very similar. That's why I chose Mosaic. Plus, I get to stay in the spotlight and do a lot of fun stuff and go to meetings and things I love to do. So 2 suggestions I have for all of you as I leave here. Continue to work together even with disagreements, and change your public comment policy. Do not let people stand up here and say whatever they want. Jeff French has a plan. I beg you to institute that plan. Don't let people stand up here and say whatever they want with misinformation. That does me no good. It does other department heads no good. They don't have correct information. They need to go to department heads, Jeff French, Louis Oki, your committee, and then come here. It's not right. It's a very frustrating part of this job. Whether you're elected or a regular department head, we shouldn't let people just come in here and do this. Many counties don't do it this way. For some reason, we do. I'm asking you, the one change I would make is that you change your public comment policy. Otherwise, it's been great. I'm going to work for the best internet, TV, phone, security, home-based need to managed Wi-Fi and internet company they have. No, that's just I'm not in sales, but I'm just kidding. I'm going to work for a company that's been partnered with us in this county on many projects, probably more. The BEAD grant has been part of this. I know they've been standing here. I'll probably come back here as the Director of Public Relations and ask you for something. We plan on expanding. We're planning to do some great things. But I also will come back and partner with the Sheriff's Department or whatever it is and continue those partnerships for the community, because Mosaic has been there through our tornado and through many other projects with us, National Night Out, all these other stuff. So that's why I went to them. It was a perfect opportunity. I didn't plan on leaving midterm, but the opportunity presented itself. That's good for me. My wife said, go do something for yourself. So I am. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You guys all got an invite to my party?
Okay, actually, I don't know if everybody reads the WCA magazine that you receive, but in the May issue, they had a really good article on the men's shed, and it highlights Barron County. So if you don't read it normally, I'd read it this time. So, Jeff.
Yes, I have 2 things. If you walked in the building today, it smelled like smoke or welding, and that's what happened. The people who are sitting on the property committee, I look at you, you know that we're putting in those bigger pumps. Well, they're going in right now, and they're putting in a valve above the new pump, and so you had to do some welding and fit that today. So we're talking about, I just wanted to mention that. If you smelled it, or maybe you're very sensitive if you walked in here, it's because that's what they were doing. The second thing is, I have a letter from a staff member. They didn't give me express permission to give their name, but I want to read this word for word if it's okay with you. This is about the Barron County Board of Adjustment Board. I just wanted you to know that the Barron County Board of Adjustment, including our alternates, is a stellar committee. They're a perfect example of how government is supposed to work for the people, by the people. Each member shows up prepared for the public hearings, some of which are complicated and or contentious. The members put a great deal of effort in being objective and looking at each request from all sides while following the requirements of the land use ordinance. This frequently entails making difficult decisions, which the board handles with grace and a great deal of patience. The BOA members and alternates are a credit to Barron County. Thank you. That's the 2 things I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
you're driving around with Mark O'Connell on the 5th? I didn't know you didn't specifically say to announce it. She's going to drive around on the 5th of June with Mark O'Connell. She's our featured Barron County Supervisor of Mark O'Connell's driving in car with county officials, cows.
It'll be on the Wisconsin Counties Association website.
June the 5th, Thursday, 10 o'clock, Lana's Corner. Thursday, June the 5th, Lana's Corner Cafe. We're featuring Lana's Corner Cafe. So not everybody should show up because then it's a quorum, right? But we'd love to see everybody come and just shine. Barron County's ADRC needs to shine. Will we
I
do?
think Wendy will post that quorum notice. Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, item number 5, approve the agenda. Motion by Supervisor Cook, second by Supervisor Wenzel. Any problems with the agenda or concerns? Seeing none, let's vote to approve.
Waiting on Punky.
We're waiting on you, Punky. You gotta be faster on the draw. Yeah, passed 28 yes, 1 absent. Thanks. Item number 6, approve the minutes of April 15th, 2025. Motion by Supervisor Langman, seconded by Supervisor Bob Anderson. Any concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, let's vote to approve those. That passed 28 yes, 1 absent. Public comment. Do we have any, Jess?
This time.
Not at this time, all right. Item number 8, rules and procedures, open meetings and public records update by our own Corp Counsel.
Okay, so usually after the reorganizational meetings every year, after the elections in April, so about this time, May or June, we take a look at the rules and procedures and we do a somewhat major overhaul. This is the off year, so there wasn't the elections year. So although Chairman Oakley has me going through the rules and procedures because he wants me to mesh it with the template that WCA came out with and see if there's any tweaks or changes we need to do. That's in process right now. But he did ask me to just address a couple of issues that usually have frequently asked questions or things that come up and people have questions and concerns about. Certainly not going to go through the whole open meeting law. We don't have, well, we could, but we would need several hours to do that. So I'm just going to hit a couple of the areas that have questions. So generally, meetings of governmental bodies are supposed to be held in open as much as possible. You're supposed to do all your business in open, not go into closed session because it's more comfortable. You have to have a specific reason. So there's some permitted exemptions that allow you to hold a closed session. And some of the subjects that if they're discussed in open session could have an adverse public impact. Some examples would be, let's say there's an item to consider purchasing a piece of real estate because you want to build a new highway shop. Now, we don't have to worry about that, I don't think, but so if you wanted to do that, the committee or the board may want to get their negotiating strategy together. They may want to get their range of how much money they want to spend on this. And so they could give that to either the county administrator or some other person that's going to be negotiating that purchase of that real estate. But if those possible terms and prices were discussed in open session, obviously their bargaining power would be gone, it'd be compromised. The seller would know how much money you're willing to spend. And the purpose of that, that would be an adverse impact on the county. So to avoid this type of harm, public interest, the open meeting law sets specific examples for, or specific exemptions for you to go into closed session. There's 11 specific ones. I'm not going to go through all those. I'm just going to touch briefly on a couple of those areas that we see the most. So 2 of them are going to be combined, kind of their employee discipline, licensing, employee evaluation. So that's 1985 1B and 1985 1C. So these allow you to go into closed session to discuss those specific items. So those areas, though, are not related to all employee-related topics. They have to be fact-specific to specific employees. They don't allow you to discuss policies. They don't allow you to discuss departments or employees in general. So normally those are can be in closed session if it's deemed necessary. The one example is if you're considering a demotion or termination, and you're going to have evidentiary hearings and a final decision, the employee can request that that be held in open session if he wants to have that heard. You don't see that very often, but that's a possibility. Another exemption would be 1985-1E, purchase of and competitive bargaining. That's the one that's the example of purchasing the real estate. Closed sessions allowed when deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public property, investment of public funds, other specified public business when competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session. So the competitive bargaining reason has to be to the benefit of the governmental body. It's not because the private entity wants to have the matter kept confidential. So it's for the benefit of the governmental body. One that you don't see very often, but once in a while we see it, is 1985-1F. And that's damaging personal information. So that's a closed session when considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of a specific person. It also, this exemption can only be used if the discussion is in the open meeting would have a substantial adverse effect on the reputation of the person involved. And then the last one that we see frequently is 1985-1G, and that's consulting with legal counsel. And that has to be conferring with legal counsel is rendering written or oral advice about a strategy to be adopted in litigation in which the governmental body is likely to be involved or is involved. And that one, legal counsel must be present at the meeting to invoke that exemption. So I don't know why that, but you need to have your attorney with you if you're going to be going in closed session to talk to them. Conducting closed sessions. The law spells out some very specific rules about going into closed session. So those exemptions are really specific, and the process to go into closed session is specific. So you must give notice of the contemplated closed session. The notice must describe the matter and the specific statutory exemption allowing the closed session. It's not sufficient to just list the statutory language. The notice has to be specific enough to allow members voting on it and the public the ability to determine what the subject matter is and whether that would truly be authorized by a closed session. So you can't have a real generic agenda item. But on the same token, the notice doesn't have to be so specific that the purpose of the closed session would be frustrated. So, I mean, you say we want to go in to talk about employee X and you put his name about him being fired because he was drinking on the job. I mean, so you've pretty much let the cat out of the bag and you don't really need closed session anymore. To go into closed session, you have to the meeting must start in open session. Presiding officer should announce the authority and the subject matter of the closed session. Here what we do is the chair announces the agenda item and reads that, and then we have on the agenda what section of the statute, and we also have that included in the motion that's voted on. So that becomes part of the record. The motion to go into closed session must be made and seconded, followed by a vote so that each member's vote can be determined. The motion, second, and vote must be part of the meeting minutes or part of the record of the meeting. Once the body goes into closed session, it cannot reconvene in open session for 12 hours unless public notice is given in the original notice of its intent to return to open session. So typically what we do is we put as the agenda item, go into closed session pursuant to whatever section, and then we say return to open session and then take action as necessary on action taken in closed session. So what action is allowed in closed session? In the same manner as with open sessions, motions, votes in closed session must be recorded. However, normally we don't do motions and votes in closed session. It's really rare to do that. An instance would be where if you did that motion in open session, you frustrated the purpose of the closed session. So once in a very rare occasion you can do that, but normally we don't do that. And all actions that are possible to be taken should be taken in open session. Who can attend the closed session? All governmental body members may participate in the closed session, including those that voted against going into closed session. You voted against it, you can't join us. If you feel that a closed session is not appropriate, that you don't think that it meets the criteria of the law to go into closed session and you're uncomfortable with that, then you should vote against going into closed session to protect yourself. And if you really feel strongly about it, you may consider even leaving the meeting and not even attending the closed session if you think that that the line's being crossed and something's being done that shouldn't be. Attendance at a committee meeting by members of the parent body who are not members of that committee are allowed in the closed session. So if you're not on that committee, but you're a member of the county board, you can attend that closed session unless the county board has a formal rule saying that you would be excluded. We don't have that rule. So any member, the only problem we would have there is then if you're going to, there's going to be so many members there that you will exceed the quorum of the county board. And we've had that a couple of times with the executive committee meeting where once we hit 15, somebody's got to leave or we can't meet because we don't have it noticed as a county board meeting. The body, so whether the committee or the county board, you've got the discretion to admit anyone into the closed session that you deem necessary to help you conduct the business of the closed session. But keep in mind, the more people that you include in the closed session, you water down the reason for the closed session. So truly keep it limited to those folks that need to be there. One of the items that gets a question that comes up a lot is what can be discussed outside of the closed session? So that's a frequently asked question. What can you say about what transpired in the closed session after it's finished? Well, the simple answer is nothing until the purpose of the closed session is no longer necessary. So in the example of the purchasing the real estate, you went in closed session and said you wanted to, your top dollar amount that you would spend would be X. And then whether you get that property or not, or somebody else gets it, or you've purchased it, then the reason for that being not disclosed is no longer relevant. So, you know, that information, the purpose of the closed session is passed. Now, having said that, some discussions should never be released after the need for the closed session is ended. Specifically, say legal counsel is discussing legal strategy on a case and you end up having those types of cases frequently. You may not want your legal strategy out there. This is how we're going to handle these types of cases. Or another example would be the example of the personal information that's damaging to a reputation. You know, if there's medical or other types of information that's shared in the closed session, just because that particular issue is resolved doesn't mean that that information should be released. And it's hard to give a black and white, black letter line on this. It's going to have to be on a case-by-case basis of what items can be released based upon the nature of the closed session, the nature of the exemption to go into closed session. In most instances, there's not going to be an official record of what took place in closed session because there's no motions, there's no votes, there's no minutes, other than maybe the minute to return to open session and the vote on that. So any minutes that are going to be out there are going to be minutes that are contained in the motions made in open session when you come back out of closed session. So if there's anything to discuss after the closed session with anyone who's not been in that closed session, it's your interpretation as an individual supervisor of what transpired in that meeting. And so that may or may not be or align with what the formal record is, because there's nothing to go back to. There's nothing to go back to in the record So, just be careful with how you're summarizing it, because it may be your interpretation of what took place, and it may be spot on. You may have heard something else. And lastly, on this particular topic, if you're in a closed session and the issue of the closed session is still pending or has not been resolved, do not be discussing that with anyone outside of the closed session. And that includes other county board members that weren't in the closed session. They could have gone to the meeting and gotten that information directly, and they would have been bound by that same restriction that they can't discuss that or share that, but they weren't there. And so until the purpose of that closed session is done, you shouldn't be talking to anybody about that. It totally frustrates the purpose of the closed session, and it undermines the value of it, and it undermines the position of the county. So when you talk about open meeting laws, what is a meeting? Well, when you look at the Supreme Court case on this, the Showers case, it says a meeting occurs when a governmental body convenes with the purpose to engage in governmental business and in a sufficient number of members to determine the body's course of action. So that seems pretty straightforward. However, meetings are not limited to face-to-face or physical meetings. Meetings can include situations in which members can communicate with each other and exercise the body's authority. Telephone and video conference calls, virtual meetings, emails, text and electronic messaging, they all can come into a play. So when the open meeting law was created many years ago, these electronic means of communication were not a consideration. Instant messaging changes that. Text messages change it, emails change it, because it can be forwarded and forwarded and forwarded, and so that message can be sent on. Now, when you look at what the purpose of a government business is, it's to it refers to any formal or informal action, including discussion, decision, and information gathering on matters within the governmental body's realm of authority. So it's just not information gathering. You can say, well, I'm just gathering information. That's one of your jobs. So even though you don't have a discussion on it, even though you don't have a vote on it, you're conducting governmental business just by collecting that information. So you probably all heard about the Bad Key decision, and that's when one governmental body went to another governmental body meeting and constituted a quorum of their own when they went there, and they didn't have it noticed. So specifically what that was the village board regularly attended the planning commission meeting to observe the commission's proceedings on a development plan that was within the village body's authority. So the court found that they had violated the open meeting law because they had a quorum and they were going to another committee meeting. So that was, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, they were just gathering information. But that was an example of how that can happen. Earlier I said insufficient numbers. So what does that mean? Sufficient number to determine the body's course of action could be an affirmative power to pass a proposal or a negative power to defeat a proposal. What's an affirmative power? Well, that's your quorum. Quorum is the minimum number of members that a body must have present at any of its meetings to make the proceeding of that meeting valid. So in our case, the majority of the county board is 15 members. So 15 members constitute a quorum. So that's the number of members that you need to take action. So what's a negative power? Well, a negative power is a negative quorum. So if your body defines a quorum as more than a simple majority, a negative quorum is a group of sufficient size to defeat that action. So when does a negative quorum come into play? Well, we see that quite frequently on votes to change the budget, where we need 2/3 of our membership. And that's of our membership. It's not of those voting and present, it's of our membership. So you need 20 members to amend your budget and have a 2/3 vote. So when you look at it in that light, a negative quorum would be 10 votes. That's enough to block it. So 10 members, you don't need a whole quorum to block it. You just need 10 members to block it. So where does that become important? Well, it becomes important because you think, well, we didn't violate the open meeting law because there, only 10 of us talked about this before the meeting, not 15, not a quorum. Well, in that instance, 10 is a negative quorum, and that's a violation of the open meeting law, and that can come about under a couple of situations, even if you don't intend it. But you could have a walking quorum. That's a meeting. It's not limited to situations where the members are simultaneously gathered in the same location. If the members can effectively communicate and exercise their authority, a meeting has occurred, even if they are not physically present together. This means that telephone conference calls, emails, electronic messaging between members could amount to a meeting. So a walking quorum is a meeting resulting from a series of meetings or gatherings among body members. It can have the following elements: a series of gatherings amongst members that are even smaller in size than a quorum, where a sufficient number act uniformly. Their agreement to act uniformly is either implied or expressly reached, and it's a sufficient number to control the action of the body. So an example of that would be that the Wisconsin Court of Appeals held that a county board supervisor individually emailing less than a negative quorum of the county board members to track votes on an issue did not amount to a prohibited walking quorum. However, if the supervisor had individually polled a quorum of members, he likely would have amounted to a walking quorum. So it could be one member reaching out to a number of different ones, or it could be one saying, I will call X, Y, and Z, you call A, B, C, and we'll get everybody to agree with what our vote is. So when, you wonder, when does this, let's see, I already told you that in the case of a resolution to amend the budget, if 10 individuals discussed and agreed they wanted to vote against it, they could defeat the action without even constituting a quorum of 15 members of the county board, but they would have a negative quorum of 10. So this isn't only a concern for the county board. It also affects committees as well, and can easily happen due to the much smaller size of the committees. If there's 5 members on a committee, then by talking to 2 other members, you've constituted a quorum of that committee, and you've essentially held a meeting before the meeting, and that meeting wasn't noticed. And so, that can come up on any issue, but likely to come up on a controversial issue that you feel strongly about. It might come up on the election for committee chair. It might come up for election of executive committee representative. But so these are some areas where you have to be mindful of how the open meeting law comes into play, and you might not even be intending to cross the line, but like I said, I don't know how town boards do it. There's 3 members on the town board. You run into one of the other ones and you mention something to them, you just violated the law. So, but it can happen even with our committees with 5 members. And as I said, if you talk to 2 other people about it, that's a problem. And when I was talking about elections to committees, you see if somebody is asking people to support them, maybe they don't intend to be violating the law, but they can't ask a quorum and get it lined up in advance. You can't be talking about it. Now, if it's on the agenda for the election that day, you can talk about it. Probably the best way to do it is to put it on the agenda, give everybody 5 minutes to if they want the position, to explain why they think they're the best person for the job. So that's enough. I'll take any questions you might have.
Yes, several months ago, we went into a closed session to discuss the health insurance for county employees. If you remember that meeting, can you remind me why that discussion qualified for a closed session?
So when we do with the health insurance one, we use a couple of different closed sessions depending on what we're talking about. Under one instance, if he's talking about our renewal and if we're going to be going out for bids, then he might have it, we might have it under 1985 1E so that we can talk about investing county monies and purchasing things and what our strategy is going to be as far as going out to bids to multiple vendors. We might have it under the 1995 1F, where we're talking about specific claims. And if we're going to be talking about claims where it could be identified as to who that individual is, and sometimes we don't get into that much depth on it, but sometimes it's listed on there as a possibility to talk about that. Those would be the two reasons, possibly under consulting with legal counsel, but that hasn't come up at this point yet. But those would be the two that we would most likely use, and the one would be investing the money or putting together a strategy for bidding out the contract.
Any other questions? Okay, like John said, we do, every 2 years we go over this, and like when we have the election of supervisors, and then we decide who's chair, vice chair, and second vice chair, and highway, there's where we kind of talk about why we want that position or somebody else wants it. But, this is an off year, but we had some new members and a lot of stuff going on, and so I thought it was a good idea to just give an overview and review what we're doing for this board as well as our committees. So, seeing no further questions, we'll go on to item number 9, the health insurance update. Now, it indicates here that Tim Deaton from the Horton Group was to be here. He actually attended our executive meeting and went over a number of slides. Somehow his wires got crossed and he didn't think he had to be here tonight, so he isn't. But Jeff French knows his stuff back and forth, and so he's going to give the presentation on this. There isn't anything controversial at this point in time. If there was, we would have waited to have Tim here, but we will have other meetings with him in the future. But Jeff's going to give us a high-level overview of what happened at the executive meeting relative to our health insurance.
Thank you, Lou. That's correct. I talked to Tim today. I apologize to him and to you for the scheduling mix-up, but it happens. This information was well received. What we're going to talk about here would not be HIPAA protected. It's very high level. The first graphic that is up there is what happened through 12/31 of 2024. And I'm going to just point out, sure, my pointer's not going to work now, but
Yeah, it does.
well, it won't work on the TV.
Oh,
So if you'll see in the center column, there, the 87%, can you put your, nope, down, right there. Jody's pointing at, that's where our final number, our funding and loss ratio was. One of the reasons that came down from over 100% is the reimbursed. That's the negative column straight above where Jody has her pointer. And the reason for that is we're receiving reimbursements, stop loss, and others. And you'll also see the pharmacy rebates, which is the red numbers in negative immediately to the right of the column that Jody's highlighting. What Mr. Deaton pointed out to the committee was we have a 12-month year, but an 18-month run out. So after up to 6 months after a claim is made or paid, we will get reimbursements. So you'll see, if you look, that month of December, we only got $1,973.66, which was substantially less than the month before. Are you following so far? So now that's our 2024. If you turn the page, this is our first 3 months of 2025, and you'll see the first negative number, I gotta take my glasses off here, is 166,000 of reimbursements. So we jumped up substantially than the month before. You can see how things are trailing out. I'm just want to explain that to you. Well, then you'll see in the first 3 months of 2025, our loss ratio was 79%. So we're at 87.2. we're down to 79. Will this carry through the end of the year? We don't know. We could have large claims. Also, we've increased our stop loss insurance. So we're paying more out of our pocket. Tim didn't have a lot of heartburn about where we're at. I don't either. And I'm going to go on to the next page and tell you why I don't. Because I'm just going to hit the main number, and that's down below. If you can get down there, Jody, what would happen if we were to renew today? And I just want to explain that. If we can, I'm looking for the one. I think it's the page before this. One page before this. All right. Is it yes, is it the pre-renewal projection? That's the one I want next. Yes, that's the one. If you go down just a little bit more, yes, nope. If you'd look, I'm going to point out, if we were to renew today, right today, or when Mr. Deaton presented this, we'd have a 6.05% increase, or a $448,802 increase. That's pretty good. Other insurance companies or other insurance carriers, you're at 11% to 50%. Double-digit inflation in the marketplace right now is the standard for health insurance. So our self-funded health plan, the point is our self-funded health plan continues to operate well. Now, there are possibilities, and we are looking at options to see what we can do on this, but 6% isn't bad. So when you look at the average, we'll start at the top now, if we can just talk down through this, you're looking at about the claims is per employee per year is over $20,000. We have administration, network fee, admin fees, stop loss, transplant. Now the transplant is very important, $296.44. Times the number of employees looks like a lot of money, but it's not. In reality, if we were to have one transplant, we would knock that out times the 254 insureds per year that we pay. This is good insurance. Our transplant insurance is good insurance. And also our gene therapy. If you'll know, the Schedule I drugs, Schedule II drugs, and gene therapy drugs, they're the heavy hitters. That's what would really hurt our stop loss, hurt our plan. So then you get costs and expenses, what we've budgeted. So the difference between the 7.8 and the 7.4 million is the 448,802. That's just a number right now. Important number. I wouldn't downplay it in any way, but it's just something that we can think about and come up with ideas, which he is going to do, and have that ready. And Tim will be back in August or September. This is a very detailed analysis. The next plan, the next page, and I think you have to go back one. I think you go back one. This is how they arrive. I'm not going to go through all this magic, but you see all the experience ratings from a year from 2022 to 2023, 23 to 24, 24 to 25. So that covers that, which comes up with your cost per claim per person. So that covers our health insurance. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to go over to our RX and Go, which is our prescription medications that we get from RX and Go. I'm going to pick out some numbers here because RX and Go utilization has been very good. Thank you, county employees. We're saving a lot of money by getting mail order drugs. Well, just look, for example, and I'm going to hit the column. It's the 2025. It's from the right-hand side. It'd be the third column in. It says 2025. Above that, it says year-to-date, January 1 to 3/31. Well, in that time frame, we had 530 mail order prescriptions, 165 unique, up 18% from the year before, and up 15% as far as unique. We jumped 33% from $39,076.43 in savings in the time frame of 2024. We jumped to $52,095.81. So our members are now saving $7,814.37 out of their pocket, and the plan is an estimated savings of $10,419.16. So our RX and Go has been very successful. That's our mail order drugs, 90 days has been working well. So it's a great thing that we're doing that. That's our RX and Go utilization. Continuing on, we have the new RX Go and Beyond, which are high-cost specialty drugs. And again, I'm going to do the same thing, third column in from the right-hand side. Look at this. We went up 108%. We went from 13 mail order subscriptions to 27. We went from 9 to 16 users, and the savings of $108,725. So our members are saving $5,436.25 in the first 90 days of the year, 91 days, and the plan savings is $43,490. This is good information to share. Thank you, employees, because they're utilizing these high-dollar drugs, getting them through prescription, through mail order, and it's just, again, proving that our plan is working. Then we have OptiMed, which is our health partners for extreme high-cost things where people would go on OptiMed. And I'm just going to point out one number, and that's the plan savings of $223,183. So just do a little number crunching. If we were to add that to the $408,000 or $448,000, that's over $600,000 in savings. So it'd be, that'd be an additional $600,000 in costs going into the year 2026. So that's why those, if the 448 were to stand and we were not using this plan performance from OptiMed, we'd be looking at almost a $700,000 increase in costs for health insurance for 2026. So that gives you a high-level overview. Say it again, our self-funded health plan is doing well. We continue to save a lot of money versus being fully insured. As Stan Buchanan pointed out many times when he was on the board, we've alleviated the double-digit increases where we would be at if we were fully insured. So if any questions, and if I can't answer them, I will write them down and ask Tim.
And the goal is to try to build up a reserve balance of your premium, which is 5 million plus. We have almost $4 million in our fund now. So, we're trying to weather any storms that will be coming.
And Tim will be here either in August or September to get back. I believe, we just talked about not having closed sessions, but I believe we would have a closed session to get direction from the board to start negotiating our renewal with our stop-loss carriers and with our drug carriers. So more to come on this. I think one has a question.
Supervisor Hanson?
Are the users pretty happy with the plan?
I defer to Rachel on that. She handles more of the complaints than I do. I mean, I'm on the plan, Bun, and the PBAs, the benefits, the benefit manager, OptiMed is wonderful. My doctor sends in a 90-day, you get it. Your plan benefit online, you can see what they pay and what they don't pay. I've had some pretty large medical bills the last 2 years, and our plan has been spot on to my deductible, to the penny. That's my answer, but Rachel will probably tell you a lot more.
If there is a perfect insurance plan out there, I don't know. I think overall it is a good plan. There's certainly better offers out there in our community with other employers. There's certainly worse plans out there. So I think overall people are used to it. We've been putting in these extra program savings that really people have really embraced, and you can see from the numbers that they are utilizing those, and they want to save money just like any of us do. So they are embracing those programs that we're putting into place. The biggest thing that we probably hear is in regards to the deductible, but there again, we try and educate folks that there are certainly higher deductibles than what we have as well. So all in all, if you I'm sure there'd be a little bit of every angle of a response to that, but I think overall it's a pretty good plan.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Jeff. Seeing no questions, we'll go on to item number 10, resolution adopting the zoning committee recommendation to deny the position for rezoning Kevin P. and Robin C. Trop. I get a motion to uphold that denial. Motion by Supervisor Guselik, seconded by Supervisor Jenkins. Is there any questions or concerns? Supervisor Turcott.
I'm just looking for clarity on, I don't understand all the zoning stuff on that, just, I deal with shoreland all the time, so I understand that very well, but, just more for
Greg, for in the future, you should really call either the head of the zoning or Jeff and get that clarification, because the last thing I want to do is retry this thing at
I'm
this
not
level.
looking for that. I'm just trying to understand the rules, so.
Supervisor Guslik, would you like to take that?
I would say that the zoning ordinance are difficult at times to understand, but I think the staff and the Land Services Department is very, very willing to visit with any of you and talk about what you have questions on or what you'd like to learn more about. So I would encourage you to utilize them if you have questions or want to learn some more about it.
Okay. Supervisor Patty Anderson.
I just had a question about it. Usually when I get a letter to the Board of Adjustment, I try to go, and I was out of town. So I called Walt Organ, and I wondered why it was denied, and so he gave me the information. And it's interesting that you got this letter today from Board of Adjustment. I don't know why, but I just have a thought when Judge Babler was here, and he said that sometimes when you're going by the rules and the things that you have to do, and then you have to step outside of the box and think differently, and how successful the family court was because they did something different. So I just think that this is just my thought. Oak Grove probably could have used the taxes on this piece of property, and housing is a shortage. So this would be one house, and then wherever these people live, that would give up another house. So these are just my thoughts. And so sometimes, and I've said this to zoning before, that sometimes case by case sometimes makes sense to me, and you're not really bending the rules, but you're looking at a specific thing. And I'm going to abstain from this because I don't agree with it. But those were just my two thoughts after I read it and talked to Walt.
Walt used to be the head of the Board of Adjustment, but he's probably familiar with
Right, but he was the
situation.
agent on this, so he brought it to
Okay.
him. So anyway, that was just my thought. I just thought it was not fair.
I've been on the zoning committee. I'm on an alternate with the Board of Adjustment. Each one of these can be difficult, and we have to rely on our land services personnel who are upholding the rules and procedures and ordinances that we've passed. And I was just on a Board of Adjustment that went through discussion a long time. These aren't easy. There's gray lines, and I guess we have to rely on the folks that are part of our Board of Adjustment and Zoning Committee to do the right thing. And if you are really interested about it, that's why we send out things, what's coming up in zoning, and you should actually attend those things and get involved. Supervisor Vaughn.
I'm just looking for clarification on the vote. Somewhat of a negative motion here, so a yes vote will say we agree, we want to deny this.
Correct. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's vote. Again, like Supervisor Vaughn said, if you say yes, you're denying this rezoning. Upholding the committee's recommendation. Okay, it passed by a majority of 26 yes and 3 abstentions. Okay, on to item number 11, resolution in support of increasing the base funding for county conservation staffing to $20.2 million. Motion by Supervisor Cook, seconded by Supervisor Olson. Any questions or concerns with that? Seeing none, let's vote. That passed 29 yes. Oh, that's right. We got Supervisor Heller did join us, just in case you didn't know. Okay, Item number 12, resolution authorizing expenditure authority to our American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA dollars for the Easy Kayak Launch and Dock on the Red Cedar River, not to exceed $12,563. Motion by Supervisor Fowler, seconded by Supervisor Hanson. Does anybody have any questions on this? Supervisor Conan?
Is this for just one dock?
Yes, there was a lot of discussion at the property committee. There is a grant out there, and we're going to go for that grant to try to get another one. But we've been kicking this can down the road for quite a while. It was authorized to go out and get it, so they want to get one, get it installed, see how it works, and we're trying to get grants for the ones after that.
Where are they putting this one?
By the Red Barn Theater, that right there.
Were there requests from the public for this kind of thing?
Is there a request from the public for this kind of thing? And yes.
My answer is yes. The property committee has been looking, as Mr. Supervisor Oki said, the property committee's been looking at this. We actually had it in the original budget to be presented to the county board, but the estimate was $18,000 to do this. So we've got my recollection, looking at Supervisor Fowler, my recollection is it was $18,000 and we pulled it out because we thought it was too expensive. We got this price, and yes, it's been requested. I talked to the mayor of the city of Rice Lake. He told me they are trying to fundraise for 2 additional docks also, so we could be back here. He asked if they did that, would this county board consider something further down on the Red Cedar River? I said, well, I can't make any guarantees, we can talk about it. So yes, I would say it is popular, and they're handicapped accessible, and they're doing it for the speed of the river, so people can go right in and then get out without flipping over, which some people tie themselves into their kayaks, I guess. And that can
Mayor
be rather-
Dodge was at the property committee meeting, and he's in full support too. Supervisor McCready?
To Supervisor Cohen, I did work with Jeff Streeter a couple years back for a project very similar to this, but more for the Turtle Lake area, and kayak was one of the major things that the public wanted. Of course, this is Rice Lake versus Turtle Lake. However, there are kayaks all over every single lake, and not all of us can afford a kayak, so, or want to afford a kayak just to try it, to see if we want to do it. So, just my 2 cents.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? If not, let's vote. Somebody having a problem? Oh, Supervisor Cook asked to be excused. He had a personal matter he had to leave. I believe Supervisor Krug may be leaving as well. That passed with 2/3 of full membership, 28 yes and 1 absent. Thank you. Item number 13, the ARPA funds expenditures. Anybody have any questions? We're getting down to the end. Okay, number 14, report from our county administrator. Okay, Jody?
Okay, we're going to take a look at first quarter financials. Starting off with revenues. Revenues are up $233,571 from the same time last year. Total coming in of $11,302,140. That's a 2.11% increase. Breaking that down by function, we had a decrease of $80,969 in taxes and transfer fees. This was a decrease in sales tax from the same time last year. Sometimes you're just kind of seeing, it's kind of a roller coaster. You have ups and downs. I am happy to report that in April that there was a big increase from the same time last year that put us back at a surplus overall for the first 4 months. So stay tuned on that. Intergovernmental revenues down $152,000. That's basically a net of a lag in DHHS funding from the state, and then also we received CDBG Salvation Army grant that came through, and so that kind of threw off the fluctuation a little bit. Licensing and permits, and also fines, forfeitures, and penalties, both of them really consistent with the same time last year. Public charges for services up $68,365. That was due to a third-party collection for a patient in Winnebago Psychiatric Hospital. With that, when we have to pay Winnebago, we do pay 100%. But if the patient would have health insurance, something like that, then we get that reimbursement. Intergovernmental charges for services up $35,364. That's just in the highway side. Winter maintenance, sales to the municipalities. We've had a mild year both winters, so not a big difference from last year, but up just a little bit. Miscellaneous revenues down $24,618. That would be due to interest rate decline. Currently, the LGIP is sitting at 4.39%. Last year at this time, it was about 5.24. So we are seeing a reduction in interest for 2025. Other financing sources, we have an increase of $382,000. That's the Sterling Bank loan. We got the final draw of $500,000 before we turned around and refinanced that. And then in 2024, we had the sale of Ann Street School. So both of those not normal in our financials. Any questions with revenues? Moving on to expenditures. Expenditures are up as well at $19,981,513, an increase from 2024 of $778,499, or 4.05%. Going through function again. General government had an increase of $314,000. Most of that was due to COLAs in the general fund departments. And then also we did have increases in health insurance claims. Public safety, looking at an increase of $313,372. That's attributed to COLAs, increase in their maintenance agreements, and then also vehicle maintenance and repairs. Public Works, Highway, we're seeing a reduction. Part of it is actually in the recycling fund, where it's a timing of capital equipment purchases. Last year, they had replaced some of their recycling, the conveyor and the baler, and so we're not seeing those capital costs this year. But we are seeing with Highway, there's also and recycling, there's also COLAs that have contributed. Also, the Highway Department didn't get as much capital equipment purchases this year at the first quarter as well. Health and Human Services has an increase of $345,000. This is mainly due to COLAs, not only in Health and Human Services, but also aging and ADRC fall under that function as well. And then also just timing of various purchases. Culture, Recreation, and Education had an increase of $99,529. And that is due to snow and ATV trail grant expenses, probably just timing, just working on that. And we are just a pass through. The grants come in and goes out and they are expensed. Conservation and Development, increase of $24,673. That would be the waste to energy COLAs. And then also their depreciation has increased with the purchase of the new shredder that they now have online. And then capital outlay has an increase of $334,200. This is the offset of that CDBG revenue that came in that we just talked about for the Salvation Army with the project out on Double T. Any questions with expenditures? Okay, putting everything together. So we have our revenues of 11.3 and we have our expenditures of just under 20 million. So we are seeing a deficit of 8,679,000. You can see this is what happens first quarter every year. It's not anything out of the norm. And this is where we really rely on our fund balance. So our fund balance as of 12/31 was 10,499,000, less the deficit. That gives us about 1.8 million. And so lots of times you're not going to see a lot of our revenues come in until, around July. especially from the state when they start their new fiscal year. And so we're just relying on our fund balance right now as we wait for those funds to come in. Any questions?
Supervisor Olson.
So talk to us about the fund balance at $10,499,000. We've had questions pretty regularly when we work on the budget about whether we can have less fund balance. So how much is that $10,499 compared to what we, or in the percentage that we normally have? Any idea what that is?
Yeah, so the $10,499,000, that's carried, that's as of 12/31. I don't have the exact percentage, but it is above what we normally have. So we are going to have excess fund balance like we normally do each year, that we're going to be able to put some of that towards the budget. I wish that I had that number, but so we will be talking more about that with the budget, and we'll also be looking to bring that down to the 33%.
Okay, then just continuing on that, the 1.8 million that we have extra right now, how much more might we use before we start seeing money coming in from the state?
Well, we're seeing money coming in all the time. This is just kind of a snapshot. We get money from the state in every day. And so, and this fund balance, this is just strictly general fund balance. There is fund balance in several of the funds too. And so the reason why we take this philosophy of just looking at the general fund balance is because at the end of the day, if any fund has a deficit, it would be the general fund that would support them. So to make it simpler, that's why we just, focus on this fund balance.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to item number 15, the appointments. Solid Waste Management Board, reappoint Bob Rogers and Fran Langman to a 3-year term. Housing Authority, reappoint Carol Mullen to a 5-year term. And we'll take these all together unless there's somebody has a problem with that. Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Guslick, a second by Supervisor Wenzel to take all these appointments at once and appoint the ones I indicated. Any questions or concerns? If not, all in favor? Well, let's vote. Geez, I almost pulled that one. We're waiting on you, Punky. Get your name in the headlights. 27 yes and 2 absent. Thank you. Claims, petitions, and correspondence. John? None, that's good. 17, suggestions for future agenda items.
The one that I have is the director from West Cap will be here at the June meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We may have a presentation from Upper 90 on the energy audit up at the campus. We'll see how that goes. We'll have one appointment to Health and Human Services Board.
Supervisor Banks.
There's a lot going on in the federal government. We all know DOGE is quite active. Is some of this going to come down all the way to the state, to the counties?
The answer is yes.
Now, do we need to discuss anything on that?
What we can do about it? They're gonna tell us what we're gonna do, and we're gonna live with it. And we'll have to adjust to
I
it.
understand that, but I guess, should we at least know what's going on or what's being cut? Or
Quite frankly, we don't know. I mean, we have these committees. We don't know what's happening. The state doesn't know, so they can't tell us, and it's, so we really don't know, John. And we're hoping everything works out good. That's why we got fund balance. Yeah. Anything else? Not, we'll adjourn by unanimous